Thank you for attending the Vermont Historical Records Program Virtual Office Hour with today's topic, the U.S. Semiquincentennial. I'm Jane Cadwallader, Roving Archivist for the VHRP, a part of the Vermont State Archives and Records Administration. The virtual office hours are a monthly series generously supported by the National Historical Records and Publications Commission that presents short informational presentations on archives-related topics and provides time for our audience to ask questions and discuss their own historical records repositories, their work, and collections. All right, let's begin. July 4th, 2026 marks the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Communities large and small are encouraged to commemorate the events that surround this formative point in our shared history. Today, we will discuss the national initiative America 250, the Vermont 250th Anniversary Commission, and its mission to commemorate the historic events associated with the American Revolution in Vermont, and resources and ideas for participating in both. In particular, the American Association for State and Local History Programming Handbook, which provides guidance for local history organizations. Before starting, I would like to say that this is not a comprehensive list of all resources. This is a small selection to help get us thinking about programming and events in our own communities that are sustainable. In this case, sustainability means the ability to be maintained at a certain level or rate. Sustainability looks different for each of us, whether that is a singular large event, multiple small events, an exhibit, a book club, etc. We should be asking ourselves, what works for our community? What do we want to highlight from the past? What hidden stories lie in our records? How will our community engage with the semiquincentennial in American history? These are all questions to consider during this presentation today. Some of you may have already planned events, and we encourage you to share your experiences. For those who haven't begun or are in the beginning stages, we welcome your questions and ideas. America 250 is an initiative of the U.S. Semiquincentennial Commission and America250.org, working to engage every American in commemorating the 250th anniversary of the United States. Commemorations are happening from the national stage to our communities now through July 4th, 2026. We have an opportunity as a people, a state, and a nation to pause and reflect on our nation's past, honor the contributions of all Americans, and look ahead toward the future we want to create for the next generation and beyond. There are 5 themes for the commemoration that are described in the American Association for State and Local History Field Guide for the Semiquincentennial. In this slide, I have listed the themes with questions derived from the field guide. The themes allow for broad interpretation of American history and encourage participation by all of the United States and their communities. Unfinished revolutions. How might the perspectives of different individuals or groups change how we think about the ongoing process of becoming a more perfect union? Power of place. What was happening in your community during the Revolutionary era? We, the people. How did diverse people experience and influence the events of the American Revolution in different ways? American experiment. How was your local and state government organized? And what were key moments in its evolution? Who did it serve, and who does it continue to exclude? Doing history. How do history professionals use different kinds of sources, written records, oral traditions, material culture, archaeological evidence, folkways to make sense of the past? These are all things to consider, and I recommend this field guide for use. The link is on the page. As part of their support of the commemoration, America 250 designated natural resource partners. These are a select group of expert, nonpartisan, nonprofit organizations that will help elevate and scale America 250 programming. Each NRP will serve as the sole representative for their focus area and was chosen for having the subject matter expertise and expansive reach to help scale and execute America 250 programming. The focus areas include state and local history, education and civics, international relations, democracy building, indigenous culture and history, faith communities, women's history, nonprofits and volunteering, and cities and towns. For example, the state and local history partner, which I mentioned in the slide before, is the American Association for State and Local History. I will talk more about their programming guide shortly. Vermont's 250th Anniversary Commission was created in 2020 to commemorate the events of the American Revolution in Vermont and its founding in 1777. These events still shape our state today and the people who call it home. The Vermont Anniversary Commission's mission statement states it will inspire all Vermonters to learn from the history, legacy, and context of the past to build strong Vermont communities for the future. Through collaborative local and statewide initiatives that explore an inclusive history of the American Revolution, Vermont 250 will support and encourage the preparation, planning, and execution of programs and events that examine a formative period of our nation and how it continues to shape our culture and values. The Vermont 250th Commission developed a strategic plan when it was created with 4 strategies. The strategy number 1 is to increase commission capacity and productivity. Strategy 2 is to increase relevance of 250th history. Strategy 3 is to enable arts and cultural heritage organization and school participation. And strategy 4 is to increase partner and public awareness of the 250th commemorations in Vermont. The Vermont 250th Commission maintains a website with several resources for people to use. You can nominate an event that can be added to their calendar, and they have information about that on the website. You can contact the Commission to share ideas and look for grant opportunities. You can also look for volunteer opportunities. You can become a heritage partner. This is something that the Vermont State Archives and Records Administration recently did, and we've become a heritage partner, which will be listed on their website. And they also provide educational resources. There's videos and also documents that can be used for this. The following 2 slides are going to show heritage and museum partners, regional partners, and also town resolutions. The Vermont State Archives and Records Administration has just become a heritage and museum partner, and you can do this by contacting the events coordinator for the commission. This is a very busy slide, but I did want to point out the regional partners. So this includes the National Archives, the America 250 organization, the commissions in Connecticut, New Hampshire, New York, etc. And on the right, we also have towns in Vermont that have submitted for a town resolution. There are approximately 70 towns that have already received this designation. Okay, now I wanted to discuss some of the resources from the American Association for State and Local History. They've created 2 publications, already discussed the field guide when going over the themes, and I highly recommend this. This resource is their 250th Anniversary Program Handbook, and it provides some information on planning your programs and also some ideas for various budgets and also organizations. So in this first pre-programmed checklist that I've illustrated, they have a few simple steps to lay the foundation and set the parameters. What are your goals, audience, who can you work with? Brainstorming and planning, so what works within your mission? What parameters do you have? You want to make a plan and assign tasks. And this can be for something big or small. This could be for a large single day event. It could also be for a book club or a poster competition or anything like that. Next, you want to implement. Is your plan on time, and are you promoting the events? Promotion is so important, and there are a lot of different resources that you can use. Of course, your own social media or websites if you have one, getting the word around the community through flyers, or working with the Vermont 250th Commission to have your events added to their calendar. And then follow up, what were the outcomes? Can this plan be reused? A lot of the events that you create could potentially become a recurring event that happens for your organization. Most importantly, AASLH is getting the word out that this is our chance to tell everyone's story, as noted with the themes. Of course, the 250th is related to the Revolutionary War and the founding of the United States of America. But the United States of America looks very different today. And there is room for everybody to celebrate their history and promote their own communities. We want to get audiences doing history. This is my favorite theme, and this is an opportunity for historical societies, towns, museums to show how they get this information out, what resources they're using. It's an opportunity to build and strengthen our collaborations, not just with our community, but with the other organizations in the community or other communities in proximity to you. You could be working with the town next door. You could be a historical society that works with the public library in your town. And this is also an opportunity to invest in the future. When I was reading about the bicentennial in preparation for this presentation, a lot of the sources that I read talked about how much good and impact came from the bicentennial celebrations around 1975 and 1976. For example, I'm from the state of Arizona, and the historical house that I volunteered in and that led me to this career was a bicentennial project. And the state of Arizona did not exist at that time. So there is a broad amount of investment that you can put in the future of your own community through the projects that you develop for the Semiquincentennial. This next slide shows some programming idea examples from the AASLH handbook. I just picked a few, but there were several. And an important thing to consider is ideas using your own resources. So as cultural heritage sites, as a town site, you have resources already that you can use to create these events. For example, community-led tours where you could take a walking tour and point out historical spaces or historical events within your community. An open archives program, which of course I like because I'm an archivist, but hold an open archives event to get community members interested in their local history. Display samples from the varied items in your collections, or if you don't have a collection, you can partner with an organization that does, and then help members of the community analyze one of the items. You could also have people bring in their own historical records for a digitization project, and that could get a lot of conversations started and really open up the community history. Another is a label trail, using an existing exhibit within your site and adding additional labels to promote the Semiquincentennial or some other aspect of the historical themes. Another thing to consider when planning for future events is looking back to what your community celebrated or commemorated for the bicentennial. Did they have events planned or special projects that came forth because of this? This can be found in newspaper coverage, in town records, minutes from your historical society potentially could have this information. Another source is with the Vermont State Archives and Records Administration that holds two record series One is for the Vermont Bicentennial, but one is for the U.S. Bicentennial, and lists projects by town. This is available on microfilm, and I have an example of it on the screen. This one shows local bicentennial committees and projects, Roxbury to Washington. I did look up one of these for town of Groton, which was a designated bicentennial community. They received a flag from the American Revolution and Bicentennial Administration, excuse me, and had an event related to that. So this is another idea. I would like to end the presentation with a question. How are you and your organization getting the word out about semiquincentennial commemorations? There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this, and it is based on your own community. But remember that this is a commemoration that the whole country is participating in, and sharing your activities could and should be of interest far beyond Vermont. Many of you may have social media and/or a website that you connect with your audience. Try tagging some of the national organizations like America 250 or the American Association of State and Local History in your posts. If you are members of professional organizations, share your news in their newsletters and websites. These are great ways to spread the word. I learned about the Westminster Massacre event from the Vermont Local History listserv. I don't live anywhere near Westminster, but I had the opportunity to join because of travel to a conference, but also more importantly because I knew about it. Do you have a local paper that you can invite to your activities? Local media coverage is a great way to get the word out before an event. They may even come to report on it. That was a lot of information, and I thank you for attending the session. If you have any questions or would like to discuss the topic further, please send me an email, and happy planning.